It's Hollie's Hotspurs back with another one. Chatting all things Tottenham, we're second to none. Special guests every time, if it's win, lose or draw. The passion is high like Harry Kane when he scores. Or when Lloris makes a world-class save. We got Hollie running the mid every game. Settle down, stick around, share your thoughts with the panel. And make sure you're subscribing to the channel. Coys.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Hollie's Hotspurs Live. We've been away a little bit, but like ever, Spurs never stay quiet. So we have a lot to dissect in terms of new manager and transfer dealings coming our way. And what better way to do it than with my amazing guests tonight. So with me, I am joined by three of them. They're fabulous. First of all, I'm joined by Jay. Jay, thank you again for coming on the show tonight. How are you?
I'm okay, yeah. I'm excited to talk transfers. I signed Casillas today on FIFA 12, so today's a good transfer day for me, so I'm up for it.
Oh, FIFA 12, a blast from the past, eh? Also joined by Connor once again. Connor, how are you?
Yeah, not bad, thanks. It's good to talk transfers. It's good that the season's over. It's good that we can start again and pretend that last season didn't happen. No, I'm excited. Thanks for having me on again.
No, thank you for coming on. Like I say, it's good to hit the restart button because I think we've all needed it. And we're also joined by Mitch. Mitch, how are you tonight?
Very well, apart from hot, which I think we all said that we are before we started. I could do with an ice pack on my back, I think, sticking to the back of my chair. But no, I'm happy to be talking about Spurs in more of the hypothetical sense instead of having to dissect one of our poor performances that was so regular throughout the season. So yeah, it should be fun. I'm looking forward to getting into it.
Yeah, defo. Like I say, I've had enough of the therapy sessions, so it's quite nice to talk about something other than a loss on tonight's show. But first of all, we are obviously not managerless anymore, which is lovely. And Jay, I know I had you on a few weeks ago, and we did talk about the topic of Ange. Have you changed your opinion on him since he's come through the door?
In true Australian fashion, I have fully flip-flopped on my opinion, and I'm the biggest Ange lover on planet Earth just because of the video he did. I instantly fell in love with him. I don't know how it happened. I went and met my friend the other day, and he was giving me some stick about what I said on your podcast about Ange a couple of weeks ago. Saying I don't think he's cut out for it, and it's a big jump to come from the Scottish League to here. But yeah. I don't know. I watched that video and I was just like, this guy could be the real deal. It doesn't look like he's going to take any crap. But yeah, no, it totally changed my tune and I'm fully here for the rebuild. So, fully behind him. And I think I haven't seen many people in the fan base at this stage after that video dropped that are still massively against him. So for the first time in a long time, minus on the owner front, we might have a united fan base behind a manager, which would be nice.
It would be. And I think the thing, like talking about that first interview, Connor, obviously he talks about how he embodies the values and traditions of this fantastic football club, and they were his words. It kind of feels that before we sort out what's going on the pitch, it almost feels like we need to bring back the culture at Spurs. And kind of what Jay says, I feel like he could potentially be the man to do that.
100%. Like Jay said, the fan base has been split. There's been so many and ahhing who should be the right manager. People kicking off when he was appointed. But I think in general, it's exciting. It's the football we've been looking for. Come on, we might have had winners here, Conte, Mourinho, but it's the press, the high press. It's the attacking football. We've missed that. We've needed that. And the fans can really get behind it. And like you say, he embodies the values in the sense of, I'm not getting Poch vibes, but I'm getting vibes, and I know Jay's gonna.
Early Poch, I'm happy with.
In terms of the sort of manager who's going to put his arm around you, we need someone like that. It's been too, and it's no disrespect to Conte or Mourinho, but it's been quite toxic vibes around the club for a while. So I think he'll change that, and I'm excited.
No, it is good. And it's quite nice to be in this position now where we can actually say we have a manager again, Mitch. I mean, what's your kind of take on obviously him coming in? Because obviously, like we said, we've made lots of different assumptions that we wanted Nagelsmann, but now that we've got Ange, how are you kind of feeling about it?
I think I'm in a similar boat to everyone else with it. I don't think, like a lot of people, he was my first choice. But when the manager comes in, you got to give him the time. And I think it's quite different to the Nuno situation. I've seen a lot of people sort of comparing his appointment to a Nuno one, but the brand of football and the approach to management as a whole, I believe is very different with Ange. And I read a very long and detailed article on The Athletic about his history and his career over in Australia and in Asia as well. And yeah, it sort of turns your opinion on him when you do a bit of research into him. He seems like an incredibly nice bloke who has got really good potential. And I know he's not the youngest manager we've ever employed, but I think for the last 2 or 3 years, or especially since maybe Mourinho came to the club, we've been asking for that attacking brand of football, to have something that people enjoy spending their money to go and watch at the stadiums, home and away. So it seems that Daniel Levy's trying to sort of ditch that attempt to bring in the high profile names and go back to our roots and the values of the club, which I think is a step in the right direction. So yeah, we have to give him time. And I know we've said that for the last 3 managers, but I think when you sign him on a 4-year contract, I think that's a statement of intent that even if next season we don't have a very good season, if we miss out on Europe or we just don't look great, I think that regardless, Ange is going to be the man that remains on the touchline for a little while. So that's exciting, and it's all about trying to get behind him now and see what he's capable of.
Definitely. And I like what you said in terms of we've tried the Conte, we've tried the Jose Mourinho. Don't get me wrong, I wanted it to work out, but as we all kind of know, Jay, it isn't necessarily going to work out with our board. But saying that, like we've kind of alluded to with Postecoglou, that with him getting that 4-year contract, are you kind of hoping that Daniel Levy's gonna put some faith in this manager for once and get the choices he wants over the line?
The only thing I'm intrigued by and slightly excited by, from the sense of I think it'd be cool, but from a success perspective, I don't know if it's the right idea, was obviously when Daniel did that interview and said that he wants Ange to do the most with what comes in and the academy. So I'm very much intrigued to see how much recruitment's actually done over these 4 years and how much is going to be bedding in players. I think it was our under 21s got relegated from the Premier League One. So, that's something to look at. Obviously, if we are putting players through the system, and over this 4-year period, if we are going to start to see players bed in, then yeah, it could be difficult, but I like it. I like the strategy, and I definitely like the 4-year deal. I think that's massive. I think that if he'd have come in for another 2 years that it was rumoured to be, then it just would have been, it shows no faith in the manager, because it now means that, Daniel has got to stick with him, because otherwise he's going to be paying out a 4-year contract. So, that as much as we shouldn't put it down to money, Daniel's kind of put his money where his mouth is and put that 4-year contract on the line, and hopefully, he brings players through and yeah, go longer than the 4 years, hopefully. This is successful.
Fingers crossed. But no, I think you make some good points, and that term hopefully gets the players that he wants. I mean, Connor, there's so many transfers flying around at the minute, so let's delve into them. And that is obviously the first one, which is that goalkeeper position, because as we know, Hugo Lloris is probably at the end of his tenure at Tottenham. So the big name that's floated around is obviously David Raya from Brentford. So how are you kind of feeling with that appointment if it does become true?
I think realistically, it's probably the best keeper we can get in as a football club where we are right now, not being in Europe. Not massive clear assurances of what's going. It's a new manager. There's a lot going on, so I think he probably is the best option. I mean, ambition would maybe be, he probably wouldn't come, but someone like Mainan or Anana, but that's not going to happen. So I think in terms of the market right now, I'd say yes. However, what I would not say yes to is 40 million in the final year of his contract. And that's the one thing that I think every Spurs fan can sit here and actually agree with Mr. Levy on, that it's unacceptable that Brentford want that much money for him. I think realistically, 20 million would be great, but I can't see Brentford accepting that. So I wouldn't go higher than 25. I think we pay more than that than we are looking. But because listen, he is a great keeper. He's a modern goalkeeper. He's got that distribution. He's got the one thing that Lloris did not have, and why we have suffered for many years with, the last couple of years, Lloris, we've suffered a little bit. But I think he's a great goalkeeper. He's done very well at Brentford. But as I say, I think we've got to be getting him for less than less than 30. If we're paying more than that, then we have, then, you know, because of how our budget is anyway, if we're allocating that much money towards it, then, you know, all these other players we're looking at, we're not going to have the money for them either. So, yeah, I'm excited, but I don't want to, yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way. I think like you said, this like yourself, I've seen lots of Spurs fans say 40 million is a high price tag. Mitch, that is kind of the case with Connor's alluded to, and the fact that he is in his last year at Brentford. So surely that asking price, in fact that he wants out as well, is kind of a bit steep.
Yeah, we won't pay 40 million for him. I think that's just the starting price. There's no way that I think they actually expect that that's what is going to, you know, be paid to get him. I think with 1 year left on his contract, you've also got to consider the fact that Brentford have already signed his replacement from the fella from the Bundesliga. I've forgotten what his name is actually, but yeah, that's the one. So yeah, he's come over, and then you've also got the fact that I think they've made one of their players permanent as well today, which has cost them 20 odd million. So, you know, they're going to be looking to sort of regather their funds at one point. So I think, to be honest, anywhere between 25 and 30 million is a fair price for him. 1 year left on his contract. He wants to leave. You know, a club like Tottenham come in for him. You can't really stand in his way if he's that desperate to leave, or risk losing him for a free in a year's time. So I think it would just be about negotiating the right price for him, and hopefully it just doesn't drag out too long. It'd be nice to get that one done, make it the first signing of the summer, and then swiftly move on to the other areas that we need to address, because there's still a lot to do after that.
Yeah, there is an awful lot. And Jay, coming to you, because obviously we spoke a bit about David Wright. Is there anybody else? I know Connor said, is there really going to be anybody else that comes to Spurs for that kind of region of price? Or are you kind of heart and hope that Raya is the guy that comes?
I'm massively happy with Raya to have a ball-playing goalkeeper for the first time in a million years. Don't get me wrong, Fraser Forster wasn't awful with his feet, but like an actual legitimate ball-playing goalkeeper, you know, absolutely changes our style of play. It means that we're not going to have to worry about conceding 57 throw-ins from him clearing it off the pitch every 20 seconds. But the only thing, and I've been looking into it a bit today for quite a few of the players, is looking into their representation, so like who their agents are and stuff. And my only concern with this Raya deal is the agent that he's with has got no other big players at all on his, like everyone else you look at has got, you know, massive players, but you know, they've not got a single player that's valued at over 500k on their books at all. So I'm a little bit concerned of maybe how it might be negotiated and managed, or how, you know, if he's come out and said he's leaving, not publicly, but, you know, if it's kind of leaked out, you know, maybe Brentford are punishing him a little bit because of that. But yeah, for 20 mil plus, you know, 40 mil is a robbery, but for 20 mil plus, proven Premier League goalkeeper, you know, everyone rated him this season. The fact that we'll sign him will mean everyone will think he's rubbish next year because he plays for us. But, you know, because that's how everyone thinks about players. But, you know, everyone thinks, oh, he's been amazing all season. But the minute we sign him, oh, he only played for Brentford. That's not what everyone was saying all season. But yeah, and I know someone that knows him, but works alongside him, and apparently he's a nice guy as well. So, you know, works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do kind of need that ethos, I think. I know you need like players that are a bit tough and rugged, and we've got that in Richarlison, but I think it is good to, at the moment where we've got such a poor morale and the fact that we just seem to be clawing at everything at the minute, it'd be good to have another player like that in the mix about it. But obviously, let's move on to defenders. And Mitch, I'll come to you for this one first. And that is the fact that there's talk about Lenglet becoming on a permanent. I think it's in the region of €6 million. So in that kind of sense, do you want to keep him for that price, or?
Yeah, it's pennies really, isn't it, in the market? He's not awful. I think for the level that he's at, I think he's good enough squad player. He's someone that you can trust in, you know, the weaker games and the cup games. I think for that sort of money, you can't really say no. I mean, if you have a look at the options that we have in defence at the moment, he's better than a lot of them. So if Spurs and Barca are going to negotiate a deal on it and it's going to cost like £5 million, you know, it's not really much at all, is it? So, and I think Barca are willing to let him go just purely because he's a massive dent on their wage bill. So, yeah, it's nothing to get excited about or that I'll be over the moon about. But to me, it just seems like a sensible and logical move, just from that sort of point of view. Bringing a defender, you know, left-footed defender who can play on that side, whether it be in a back four or a back three. And, you know, he's got experience playing for Barcelona, experience playing in the Champions League. So why not have him about if you can get him for such a cheap price?
I was going to say our back line at the minute doesn't have a lot of quality in it. So Connor, just keeping him around. I know we talk about we need to offload players, but there's an awful lot of players that we need to offload. And like Mitch said, for that price, do we just keep him?
See, I'm going to play devil's advocate. I think it's a great price in the market, but I think realistically, and yeah, we need to get rid of the Deadwood. I worry that we get rid of Deadwood and then we have him in couple of seasons time and he's not good enough and we're stuck with that, and then it's just another player on the books, you know. And again, it's little money, but realistically, if we're getting Longley on a permanent and he's in that back line next season next to, hopefully, well, you'd like to think Romero, I'm a bit worried, to be honest. If we go and get him, we don't go and get someone else, because I think that he has shown vulnerabilities this season. Yeah, he again, Mitch is right. He's been one of the better of our defenders. But then you look at that crop and you think, well, it's not a great crop in general. So it's great value for the market. So for that sense, I will say yes. But if I see him starting next season more than half the games, I'm probably going to be pretty disappointed. Again, I just think in Ange's style, you know, it's obviously the back four usually, and then sort of the wing backs go forward, and then you've got the two centre backs. And I don't think he's strong enough to fit that style personally. I think Romero can do the job there. He needs someone strong next to him. But yeah, listen, for $5 million, I'll have him. But as I say, if he's starting more than half the games next season, then we're going to just have the continuous problem of Eric Dyer and Jadon Sanchez, and, you know, I don't want to dig out Ben Davis, but do you know what I mean? So yeah. I just don't want us to stockpile defenders that aren't good enough, personally.
I mean, Jay, you kind of on the same kind of thought process, or you kind of leaning towards kind of Mitch's more outlook on it?
Just for the money, it's a no-brainer for a squad player. Kind of like Connor said, if he starts more than half the games next season, I don't see our defence being any less leaky than it was this season, especially in a back four, you know. But, you know, again, it goes back to confidence. You know, the team's not been particularly confident, and in any position on the field, if you're not confident, you're going to make more mistakes. So, you know, we've seen him in this Spurs team, maybe in an Ange's Spurs team, he becomes more of the player that Barcelona thought they bought from Bilbao, I believe. You know, so maybe that will come out. But yeah, again. But then the only thing that saves that is if Laporte comes, you know, he's just won the Champions League. It's that classic thing. It's like it would be a massive step down in his career, but he also probably wants playing time, and he's the left-sided centre-back as well. So, you know, 5 million for a player that, you know, I know you said like in 2 years' time, Connor will probably want to get rid of him, and that's definitely true. But it's not like Jadon Sanchez where we paid 60 million for him and we want to get rid of him after 2 seasons. You know, it's probably, you know, less of a problem. But yeah.
No, I think it's more about who we kind of target next, I think. And obviously one of those targets, Mitch, that came out last week was that Harry Maguire could be coming to Spurs. And I don't know about you. I don't know if I could cope with Harry Maguire and Dyer at the back. I think it would just send me over the edge.
Yeah, the only way I can sort of look at it is that Tottenham might think they're going to be able to get him again on sort of some cheap bargain deal. I know that a sort of overriding factor of that sort of move would be the homegrown sort of quota that they're trying to keep on top of. But yeah, I mean, I'm just as confused as I think you are and the rest of the Spurs fans are. Yeah, reading reports saying that Harry Kane's recommended Maguire to the board before is just I really struggle to get my head around it. And he's also on ridiculous wages at Manchester United, like a lot of their players are. So it just I really can't see how that deal is going to happen, which I'm grateful for. Even if, you know, I love Harry Kane with all my heart, but I really don't want to see Harry Maguire come to the club for several different reasons, unless Harry Kane would come out publicly after we signed him and said, yeah, I'm going to sign a new 5-year deal now. But that's not going to happen. So, yeah, it's a weird one. You know, we've all seen the player that he was at Leicester. and he was a hell of a good defender for a year. I don't know if it's, just got to him playing under such pressure and playing at that next level with United that sort of knocked his confidence. I mean, you could argue that if we get the England Harry Maguire, then it would be a lot better than what we see for United. But it's just, I don't think I could pick out a game in which I've watched Harry Maguire play in the last, 3 years and thought he's really good. I'd quite like to have him at Spurs. So I don't know. Maybe there's people out there that disagree with me and think he would be a good signing. But I don't know, Hollie. I can't get my head around it. I'll be honest with you.
It's almost like Connor can get his head over it, which has worked quite well because Connor, you are playing devil's advocate tonight, so far away.
I really am. So for me, Maguire, and I get a lot of stick for this, and I'm happy to keep getting stick for this. Harry Maguire, like Mitch has just said, it's a confidence thing. I think genuinely there is that player there, does the job for England. However, the job he does for England is in a back three. So, feasibility in terms of wages, in terms of price, Mitch is right. Probably wouldn't come to Spurs. It's out of our bracket anyway. But if for whatever reason it would happen, I'd only want it to happen if he was in that back three. And I think Postecoglou would be the perfect manager for him in terms of united him, in terms of getting the best out of him, because he's got that sort of belief. And he doesn't take anyone who doesn't want to be there. If Maguire joined us, he'd want to be there. He'd want to show himself. So I would have him if it was in a back three. However, Postecoglou's systems, from what I know, it doesn't work with a back three. So in that sense, for me, it seems like one of those rumours that's just gone out there, like the Sancho one, which is messy. But I'm sure we'll get to that. Yeah, I'd have him, but it probably wouldn't work. So yeah, we'll say no, but under certain circumstances, I would have him.
It'd secretly be a yes. I mean, Jay, are you a yes or are you an adamant no?
Fully, pretty much 100% Connor's point, really. Back three, yeah, why not? A player that's got a point to prove. If it is Harry Kane's recommendation, Harry Maguire's very rarely let England down. He's probably done it once or twice, but I can't think of any time off the top of my head. He's been a consistent performer for England. Yeah, I don't, for the money, it's the fact that we're turning our nose up at players like this for that price is crazy. Like the only thing is, and like Connor said, is if we play a back four, unless Romero gets injured, Maguire's sitting on the bench for the whole season, or playing League Cup games and, well, I was about to say Europa Conference League games, but we're not even in that. League Cup games and FA Cup games, So, yeah, I like him. I'd have him at Spurs, but I think he'd really have to take a pay cut and take a reality check on where he's at in his career at the minute and probably sit out on the bench. But, yeah, unless we play a back three, then it's totally pointless, in my opinion, signing him.
Maybe it's the colour red. Maybe he can't play in red. Maybe that's the vibe. So if he came to Spurs, he might be all right. But Jay, I'm going to stick with you because obviously Connor did mention another Man United player, and that is Jadon Sancho. And obviously that has come out today out of the woodwork. For again, it's not a high price, but it's a price I'm not really thinking that we could afford on another winger. So what's your kind of take on it?
Absolute waffle. Mitch was talking before the podcast went live about, there's so many transfer rumours and there's so much rubbish that people just put on social media to get a transfer rumour. This is definitely one of them. Why would he leave? Why would United sell him to us? And we don't particularly need him when we could have probably got Danjuma cheaper. We could probably get, we're still wrapping up the Kulusevski deal. What would be the point? It'd be the most pointless transfer on planet Earth.
I like that. It's short and sweet, Jay. It's to the point. But no, you make some valid points in the sense that why do we need another winger? I mean, Connor, like Jay's mentioned, we're still trying to wrap up Kulusevski. Is that because it's going to go down south and we're trying to line up our options afterwards? Or do you think it's just a silly rumour?
No, it's twaddle. Absolute twaddle. Honestly, I don't listen. I'm not trying to dig out journos, but I don't know how these people get away with these. I can eat my words if he joins, absolutely. But come on, in a million years, this transfer does not happen. Okay, the price that they're looking for is way out of our budget because we have a set budget we have to follow anyway. The wage structure. I mean, what of all the players to break our wage structure, we're going to look for Jadon Sancho. Come on. He's going to be earning more than Harry Kane, probably. Like that doesn't make any sense to me. On top of that, like Jay has just said, and like you said, Kulusevski deal, like it's going to happen. It has to. If it falls through at this point, then personally, from my perspective, is unforgivable on Levy and co. Because come on, yeah, all right, he wasn't great last season, but in that 6 months, him and Bentancur that carried us to the Champions League, come on, like, I mean, the player is there. The whole team is just depleted with confidence. So, like I say, the player's there. No, the Kulusevski deal has to go through. So in that sense, Sancho will not happen. I'm categorically telling you right now, it will not happen. And if it does happen, I'll be very surprised and I'll be a little bit disappointed as well, because I don't think I don't think it's a good move for him, to be honest. I think he's probably better seeing it out at United and proving his haters wrong. But no, it's not. It's never going to happen. Honestly, that is a permanent never happening.
Let's hope so. Otherwise, it's getting clipped, Connor. But no, I think we're right. I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, Mitch, is this one of those that have just been chucked in the air in the sense that it's just one of those that it's not going to happen?
Yeah, well, it just doesn't make any sense, does it? It's like, what? I don't see why on earth we'd splash out 60, 70 million for another right-sided winger when we've got people that can play there anyway. You got Richarlison can play out wide, Kulusevski, Son can go over to that side if he needs to. It's just waffle. I like Sancho as a player, and I do think that he's far from what he's capable of playing at United at the moment. But for the money that he's on, for the money that United would demand, I think he's contracted there till 2026 as well, and he's on like 350k a week. And United have an option to extend his contract by a further year. So, it's just waffle, as the other two have said. Non-starter, I think.
Utter waffle. I mean, one that potentially couldn't be waffle, and Connor, I'll come to you for this one, is James Maddison. But I don't know if we're going to win the race with him against Newcastle, but I feel like he would be good for us. Do you think?
Oh, he would be the gem. He would be like, do you know when you're making a sandwich and you feel like you're missing something, and you find it and you put it in and you're like, wow, what a sandwich. I'm so glad I had that. That is, I mean, that's probably a really bad example, but that is exactly what Maddison is. Maddison's what we've needed for so long. And yes, he didn't fit Conte's style. You know, you could argue he didn't fit Mourinho's style either, but he is literally that creative player that we need. My argument is that if we really want him that much, I don't care if he's an Arsenal fan. I don't care if he's tweeted weird stuff about Bale in the past. You know, people always tweet weird stuff. For me, it has to happen. But if it has to happen, we have to push for it now, because if Newcastle are competing with us, why on earth would he go to Tottenham? If it's serious, yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100% right with that comment. If we want to show ourselves, we show ourselves now. We go for it, because yeah, we're not in Europe, but if we go for him and all of a sudden Newcastle aren't doing anything and he's holding out for Newcastle, then we don't do the deal because he doesn't want to be here. But if we go for him, Newcastle don't come in and he wants to keep the deal going, then we do it. Like, you know, like Mitch said earlier about Raya, if we can get that done early, why are we not getting this done early? I don't want this to be a rumour for the whole window for us to then finally miss out on him and, you know, get till January without that player still. I want him so much at this club, but it's just a case of them actually getting it done. So yeah, he would be the dream, to be honest. He carried Leicester so much last season, honestly.
100%. And we've said it all season. I know, yes, it didn't necessarily work with the Conte system, but you can see that gap needs a creative player in there. And Jay, do you think, like Connor has alluded to, Maddison could be that man?
Yeah, he carried Leicester to relegation this season. The thing is for me is I think he's a quality player, and I really do. But this is, I don't know whether Daniel Levy's put something in my drink today or something, but paying a relegated club £55 million is crazy to me. Absolutely crazy to me. I don't know whether, you know, Leicester are, you know, doing themselves a disservice in the fact that, you know, I know Newcastle have got money and we've got money, but if I was a owner, I'd like to think people would look at the situation and go, there's no way that, you know, I saw earlier Southampton are wanting 55 million for James Ward-Prowse. Like, what world do these owners live in? It's you know, that's not how it works. You know, the only thing maybe that Leicester are concerned about is that he's only got a year left on his deal. So, you know, they're trying to cash in, but even so, this goes back exactly to the Raya conversation. It's the right price for the player. I would 100% have Maddison on the team. I think he definitely fits the hole that we're missing. But if we can get Alex Scott for cheaper, then, you know, take a punt on him maybe. But, you know, okay, he's not proven in the Prem, but, you know, this is the point. If as a club we're rebuilding, maybe getting proven players isn't the way, because we've tried that supposedly in the past to get proven players in the door, and it's not worked. So maybe we need to go back to Poch days where we had players that weren't world class but were good and had potential and were trusted to do their jobs on the pitch and made a difference. But yeah, I don't know how Leicester can command that price. I really don't.
No, I mean, you make some valid points there, Jay, in terms of the price again. And like you said, I feel like that's the theme with these teams at the moment. I feel like they're picking out their best player and trying to sell the most for it. I mean, Mitch, is it the same kind of vibe? You've had him in a heartbeat, but that price is a bit too steep.
Yeah, I love James Maddison. I think he's exactly what we need. I think he's just the perfect sort of Eriksen replacement to fill that creative hole that we've been missing for the last couple of years. And do you know what? There's a few sort of variable factors with the whole Maddison thing. I mean, there's not a bone in my body that believes that James Maddison will be playing in the Championship next season, regardless of what Leicester are demanding for him over the summer. I think what could very well happen is that it seems like Spurs and Newcastle are the two in the running for him, but with, you know, these whole reports going around that Newcastle have only really got about 70 million to spend this summer, are they going to use up 60 million of that on James Maddison? So what we might see happen is it might drag out over the summer, which I know we all don't want. But as we go weeks into the transfer window, we might see that price start to drop. I think the other thing that might actually work out for Spurs a little bit, and I think I've seen reports on this as well, is that, you know, Maddison's been relatively keen on coming to Spurs for a couple of years. Obviously, I think most of us know that Daniel Levy tried to push for him last season, but Conte ultimately didn't want him. So that's why nothing really opened up for him. I think he likes the idea of living and moving to London, which is a big draw for a lot of players, which is, I think, something that gets overlooked. I know it's probably more prevalent with players coming from abroad. They think, yeah, I'd love to live and play in London. All of that very convenient, very easy. So I think that's potentially one advantage we've got over Newcastle. I know, obviously, if you're sensible, you pick Champions League football over really wanting to live in London instead of Newcastle. But I don't think there'll be much in it. Ultimately, I don't know what he's going to choose, but I think it will be one of the two clubs, Spurs or Newcastle. I really do hope it's us, but we know that Daniel Levy's quite tight on the negotiation front, and like the other two were saying, in terms of a fee, maybe it is a bit too much for someone that has just been relegated and, you know, not too much time left on his deal. However, like I've just said, Daniel Levy's been quite keen on James Maddison for a few years now. So does that give him the extra incentive to just go and try and get a deal done? Do we approach it in a similar way to the David Raya deal? Speak to the player, try and get personal terms agreed and say, look, we want you. Do you want to come here? Yes, fine. Right now, let's go and sort it out between the two clubs. So it's unfortunately, I think, going to be one of those deals that gets quite complicated. And because it's quite high profile, I don't think anything is going to be done anytime soon on the front from either Spurs or Newcastle. But we'll see. You know, I might be surprised. I think, when was the last time we had like a signing out of the blue? I think it the Basuma deal, where it just sort of popped out of nowhere. We were like, yeah, Spurs are signing Basuma. Maybe something like that can happen again. That would be nice.
Maybe it would be quite nice to be surprised now and again, because it seems like everything kind of gets filtered through the media and we're always the last people to know, but we work it out anyway, like it's Cluedo. But obviously, if Maddison doesn't work, Connor, is there anybody in your eye line that you're thinking? Because as we all know, midfield and defence is probably one of the big positions we need to sort. So is there another midfielder knocking about that you're quite well into?
I think Jay got it spot on with Alex Scott, to be honest. I think everyone seems to be raving about him. I think it's a higher level than when we signed Dele Alli. I think, again, and it goes back to this argument I've had with Spurs fans where do we maybe think that we are better than we are? Thinking, oh, well, it has to be Maddison or no one. You know, if we want to be this club doing this rebuild structure, maybe Alex Scott hits the nail on the head and we might find a gem there. We might not, but, you know, would you rather risk I don't know, maybe 15, 20 million, whatever Bristol City are after. I think it's Bristol City, whatever they're after. Would you rather risk that than say risk the... Yeah, because Jay was right as well. You know, you don't want to be paying 50, 60 million for a relegation player. It is laughable. Like, I know I've sung my praises for Maddison a second ago, but deadly serious, if we are paying that money, then things are going a bit dodgy, and that's not us in a nutshell. So I think Alex Scott hits the nail on the head with that one. I mean, Christian Eriksen wouldn't come back. Yeah, no, I think we need to go more down that route. Personally, I just think because, well, you know, if the Maddison fee's too much, because we don't want to be breaking the bank and then leaving ourselves short. Because for me, the biggest priority is defence. I don't care where anyone is coming from. It has to be those defenders. It cannot be if in August, first game, we've still got the same defence and we haven't got anyone new in. I'm going to cry. You know what? I'll be in the stands. I will just feel myself crying, purely crying, because I'm like, I can't take this anymore. It has to be prioritising those defenders and going from there. So I want a deal like the Maddison or Scott, whoever done, but I want defenders done first. That is my main priority. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's everybody's priority in a sense, that because we've known for so long that defence is the one that always breaks us at the end of the game. Like we say, we can always let Kane score as many goals as he likes. And to be fair to him, this season, he literally put everyone in his back and carried them. Imagine if we had an all right defence, you might not have to get a week back. But Jay, obviously, you've already spoken about Alex Scott and you've already touched on him. So I won't ask you again to talk about him unless you want to. But we'll talk about defenders. And if there's a name that you'd like to talk about, because obviously we've spoken about Maguire, but I don't want to bring him up again.
Obviously, the one doing the rounds at the minute is Ndicka from Frankfurt. Again, you know, Frankfurt are a good side. Goes back to, you know, I've had this argument with silently on the timeline, watching people's tweets. I've always had this argument, but I've never heard it. But like Connor said, I do think we have got a bit of a superiority complex of who we should sign and who we shouldn't. You know, even just out of pure instinct, I nearly said, "Oh, he only plays for Frankfurt." But I'm like, who am I to say that? You know, Frankfurt, you know, and a well-established German team. They obviously got to the Europa League. Well, won Europa League, didn't they? They won Europa League with him in the defence. So for me, yeah, he's probably another good signing. Do I know enough about him? No, but you know, we're not football scouts. You know, the people that make the decisions will make the decisions. And but yeah, like Connor said, the priority's got to be defence. If we sign another 47 wingers on loan to buy deals, I will cry. Yeah, also.
I think that is a vibe, and I think you make a good point in a sense that not that we feel entitled, but the superiority, because I think a lot of us are kind of like that. But then we've also got to think, actually, who actually wants to come to Spurs at the moment when we're not in European football? Yes, we've got a nice fancy stadium, which is what everybody seems to kind of use without trying to take the mick. But it is true. I don't know why we have this kind of superiority. But Mitch, obviously, I've asked these two guys about whether they want what midfielder they want, what defender they want. Who's one for you that you'd like to come to Spurs? Who you think that could be realistic?
Ooh. You had me until you said realistic. Look, I mean, I think what Jay said about Ndicka could be a shout. I think he was talking to Roma as well, so I don't know whether that's a possibility or not. Again, I'd love to see Laporte at the club, but 29 years old on massive wages at City. Again, does he drop out of a treble-winning team to come and play for a team outside of Europe? Who are in a bit of a mess and need a bit of patience to rebuild. Again, another one I would love to see, but we're probably not at that level to compete with, is Kim Min-jae from Napoli. I think United are a sure bet for him, and that's obviously going to be a bigger draw because of the Champions League football. Because I think he's got a release clause that can be activated this summer. I don't know what it is. I think it might be like 60 million euros. But he's another player that would be really good to see. But do you know what? I just want to see a decent defender come in. Do you know, I'm not like very drawn on anyone specific that I think, yes, we have to go out and get him. Not like, you know, with the whole Maddison situation, you know, Maddison is my number one. attacking midfielder choice. David Raya is probably at the top of my goalkeeping list for realistic signings. So, yeah, the defense is a bigger mess to sort out. And I think when it comes to signing a centre back who's going to come into the starting lineup, they obviously are going to need to be moulded to how Ange wants to play, with that high line, with that press and counter press. So, you know, they're likely going to need a bit of pace. They're going to need to be intelligent, be able to pass and play with their feet. So maybe someone like Mark Guehi or Max Kilman, if you're looking in the Premier League, maybe not necessarily quite ready to be at that level yet, but perhaps someone that you could target and go in for. But yeah, I'm not too sure on like a high profile defender because of the problem that you mentioned, who's going to want to come here with that whole superiority complex. And I get bullied at work for that because a lot of people, I'm like one of the only Spurs fans at work, and they say, why do Spurs fans have this superiority complex where they just think they're better than they are and can get all these really good players? So yeah, I don't know, we'll see.
We will see. I think it's just because we're so frustrated and we think that players want to come here and prove a point. But that clearly isn't the way, because we're still doing it. But obviously, talking about people coming in, we have got a few loan boys. And now I would talk about who I think should be going, but I think like we'll be here forever because the list is very long. So Jay, I'll come to you first. Is there a player out of that long list that are on loan that you are quite happy to see come back and have another stint in a Spurs shirt?
Well, if all of the football Twitter accounts had their way, it would be Big Boy, Tanguy and Ndombele, who's going to have an absolute resurgence. I've never seen Twitter go so crazy in my life over literally nothing. Nothing had happened. All it was, it was
the comment. It was the comment, wasn't it? It was the
it was Harry Kane.
Harry was big man or whatever. I was like,
if we saw half of the player that we paid for, then yeah, I'd like to see him. Obviously, Gio, I'd like to see again, maybe to fill that 10 role. I think it would give him a bit more freedom than when he played in our system before, because he obviously didn't play in the 10, and I think he'd be very much a good 10 player. Because he wouldn't have to do so much defending where he was kind of a box to box before. But I think his heart set's probably on leaving, to be perfectly honest. He wasn't keen on being here as it was. I kind of vaguely remember some social media stuff of him saying he wanted to leave when we sent him out on loan to Villarreal. But new manager, this is the thing. New manager, I'd love for all of the people to come back off loan and be amazing. I want to see Dane Scarlett back 30 goals next season, but I don't think it's going to happen just yet. But yeah, no, it's all going to be Ange's decision. This is the thing. Until Ange has had that first training session with all these players, we're really not going to know. But yeah, I think for me, if I wanted to see someone succeed just for the memes, it would be Ndombele.
I love that. Not for the price tag, just the pure memes. But
just
no,
for the memes.
Make some good points. I mean, Connor, how about you? Are you kind of on the same vibe? It's the Dom 5 bellies or no one. I mean, what's your kind of stint?
For me, I'm like Jay. I love all of them to come back and do well. I mainly want Ange to have a look at all of them and say, right, I want you. You clearly don't want to be here, so you can do one. I'm all on that path. I personally think unless Ndombele has some massive sort of resurgence over summer, it's not happening. Everyone's living in dreamland. I think personally, maybe I'm wrong. I'd like to be wrong about that. Lo Celso, I don't really care for Lo Celso personally, to be honest. I think I didn't particularly enjoy his attitude too much. I think, and I'm not going to lie to you, I mean, I wrote a song about it, about Romero wanting to play for Argentina instead of Tottenham. So I can't have it with Lo Celso as well. I can't do that where it's, I'm injured, but I can go and play for my national team like that. That grinds my gears a little bit. Spence, I'd love to see some sort of resurgence there, but I feel, that's the main one. That's the one where we'll see him next season. Absolutely, Adoji is going to be fantastic, I think. But yeah, Spence, I think I feel awful for him because everyone says it was a Conte signing. It clearly wasn't a Conte signing because he had no interest from him, for him whatsoever. So I'd like to see what happens there. But then you got Emerson, you got Porro, so it's a tough one. Gil, I really want my boy Gil to do well. Honestly, like this guy, like I honestly, I'm telling you right now, if he goes back to Sevilla on loan, or he goes back to Spain on loan, or he goes somewhere on loan that's not in England, I will break down. I'm deadly seriously right now. I will literally break down. I can't take it anymore. So I want him to come back and do well. Because, I remember the Palace game, Palace away, got that assist. Everyone's like, oh my God, this is Gil's resurgence. It's going to happen. It's coming. And then he goes to Sevilla. And it's like I can't have it. So I want them all to do well, but I think realistically, and actually another factor as well is because we have a set budget, we're probably going to try and integrate some of them. So all those players on loan, they're not all going to go. And Reguilon's another one. I mean, for whatever reason,
Jesus,
that's what I'm saying. We all forget about Reguilon. So it's interesting to see what will happen with him as well. Some of them will have to go, of course, and that will fund the transfer money. Winks, your boy Winks. There's so many.
I was waiting for someone to mention him. I don't want to bring him up.
So many. This is the problem. We just loan all these players out. We don't do anything with them.
Unless it's a Levy master plan, loan them all out, make them win loads of trophies, come back to the club, and then win none for us.
I mean, Skip was relegated, so your point sort of dies there a little bit. Yeah, no, some of them will integrate. Hopefully more than others because I want them all to succeed. But I think it'll end up being about, I don't know, maybe 2 of them and the rest will be sold. Although what I do not want is them to be loaned again. I can't have it. I cannot have it again where we're going to loan them again and not get any money. Sorry, I rambled a lot there, but I'm about this because we let Doherty go because we had too many players on loan. That's how out of touch we are with it. We've got to fix it. Yeah,
I genuinely think they've forgotten. I thought they would have written a shopping list, and I think they've just lost it because there's so many players, like you say, that you kind of forget about. I mean, Mitch, are you kind of on the same way? That is there players you want to keep? You think lots are going to go? We're going to keep them?
Yeah, they won't all come back. I can't imagine. Do you know what? I was actually about to say I can't imagine that we're going to see Harry Winks come back and integrate into the side, but I don't know why I have this weird feeling at the bottom of my soul that feels like he'd be the sort of player that Ange likes with the way that he progresses and moves the ball about and his range of passing and stuff. But there's a few that I'd quite like to see next season and see if they can sort of revive their career. Reguilon is one of them. Jed Spence is another one. You know what? I'll give Tanguy another run. Why not? One last ride. See if he's got anything left in him. Also, sort of going down a bit of a different route because don't forget that Daniel Levy mentioned in his sort of message about hiring Ange is that he understands the importance of the youth and bringing them through. So, it'll be interesting to see if we're going to see either one of perhaps. Maybe Alfie Devine or Troy Parrott or Dane Scarlett get a run in the team at some point, or even just get more of a cameo than they have done previously. Dane Scarlett did well enough in League One last season. Troy Parrott was a bit hit and miss in the Championship. Is it? Are we going to see something like that next season under Ange? So there's a few, but I mean, there's also a lot of players that are out on loan that. You sort of just want to get rid of. I mean, Harry Winks, I think his time's up. Joe Rodon, I know Joe Rodon's another one that really, seems to go. I think we'll actually be able to fetch a decent amount of money for Lo Celso. I think Aston Villa are quite keen on him as well. He worked with Emery at Villarreal, didn't he? So that's probably another one. But I agree with what the guys said about not really wanting to loan them back out because it's just all a bit pointless. Just if you don't want them, either get a minimum fee for them, just get like 5 million for them or whatever, or just tear up their contracts because what's the point in them being Spurs players if they've just got zero future whatsoever at the club? Do what you did with Dele Alli, just sell him for peanuts and put some performance related fees in there if they do suddenly revive their career at another club. So talking about it makes me realise how much of a big job there is to do over the summer. I really hope they're working on that already.
I'd like to hope so. I've learned with this club not to get my hopes up because they're not very proactive. But hopefully with Ange, they may change their way with his no nonsense. Before we go, I've only got one more point because I am melting and roasting. I want to talk about, obviously, Ange hasn't got his backroom staff as of yet. And there are rumours floating around that Mason is going to be his right-hand man. Now, Jay, how do you kind of feel about Mason getting, I don't want to say his nose back in the picture again, but back into the coaching staff?
If in any job in any other job on planet Earth, if you go for a promotion and you don't get it, and then you have to work for the person that goes into your job, there's going to be a little bit of a sour taste in your mouth. And with how, I know it was a very different scenario, and I love Ryan Mason to bits, but I really do think he needs to leave and go and do something. And then I'm fully open to him coming back, whenever we need him. Look at Carrick in the Championship, and there's a long list of recently retired players who, instead of taking and jumping into the deep end, are plying their trade in like League One, League Two, and the Championship, and then proving themselves. Vincent Kompany went over to Belgium, then obviously came to Burnley, got Burnley promoted, and obviously that looks incredible on the CV. But the only thing I would say about Ryan's frustration with Conte was the negative football and the way we played, and you saw that kind of come to a head in the Champions League game against AC Milan. So under Ange's football, maybe he might be as big a supporter, and together they might, take on the world and make us finish 6th, which will be an improvement. But yeah, no, I love Ryan to bits, and obviously I think he loves the clubs to bits. But I also think, if he did have an interview for the job and he didn't get it, it takes some man to 100% shake that off and focus and go again, and not be salty about it a little bit.
No, that makes a massive point, I think, in terms of, like you said, he went for the big boy job, and we've obviously gone for Ange. I mean, Connor, are you kind of in the sense it's good to keep him around? I mean, like Jay said, he knows the club inside out as well, but I feel like he needs to go and learn his craft and life other than Spurs, I feel.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's like Jay said, he's spot on. I think Ange is a good character for him. It's massively different to what Conte was like, and that could be great for him. But I worry that Mason is maybe scared. Maybe he's scared to actually go out into the real world. Maybe this is like I don't know, Stuart Little or something. Maybe not Stuart Little, but this is one of those things where he just, if he leaves Spurs, it's the next stage of his career and he doesn't really know what to do. I personally don't think he can do no wrong by leaving and trying his trade somewhere else. And if it doesn't work, well, then he probably could come back and work in other capacity. Yeah, I agree. He needs to go and try something new. But saying that, if Ange wants him, then it's absolutely fine. We'll let it happen. What I do worry about is and I really don't know if this happens, but if it turns sour, as in Ange goes and Mason's stuck here again, or I don't know, or Ange goes and Mason goes, I don't want Mason to get a sack. Like I can't. It'd be really bad for Mason to get the sack. Like if Mason goes, you want him to leave on good terms. If it goes sour, you don't want that. So. I think work under Ange for a bit, and then maybe see if job offers come out, and then move. And then he's plied his trade on both sides of things. He knows more, different styles of football, different management, and go from there. But yeah, he needs to leave at some point because it must be torturous. Jay's spot on. It must be torturous sitting there seeing someone employed for the job that you wanted, and then just being like, oh, okay, well, I'll work under you. Yeah.
No, I think you're right. I don't know. I feel like Mitch. It's almost like, not that Levy's interfering and saying that Mason has to work with Ange, but I don't really know how it's kind of lying, because surely Ange wants to bring his own personnel in.
I think if Ange wasn't happy for Ryan Mason to be there, then he wouldn't be. I don't think that's something that's been forced. I think they've sat down and had a conversation, and they've both been impressed with each other. Ryan's obviously been impressed with Ange. That's why he's decided to stay. And Ange obviously values the work that Mason's done under the previous manager and likes what he's about. So you've got to remember, Ryan Mason's only 31. Like he should really still be playing, and would still be playing if it obviously wasn't for his injury. And it's not out of the picture that he is on that coaching team and he goes off to do a management job based on the work that he's done there. We've seen that in the past. I mean, look at Mikel Arteta, for example, working next to Pep Guardiola, and he goes and scores himself a managerial job because of that. So, Ryan Mason's probably thinking along the same lines. If he does well, there'll be a job, whether that be Premier League straight away, I'm not too sure, but in the lower leagues, you've seen it with people like Duncan Ferguson as well, who did a job with Everton and served on the coaching side of things there. He's gone and gotten himself a job at Forest Green and is doing his business there. So I think the mentality behind all of it is that he's probably just not in a rush. And to be honest, I don't blame him because it's a risk. It's a risk diving into management very quickly like that. Have a look at what's happened to Steven Gerrard. Have a look at what's happened to Frank Lampard. Yes, while they've managed to score decent jobs towards the start of their careers, they've very clearly shown that they haven't got enough experience and enough know-how to be able to maintain that. And if Ryan Mason goes off now, maybe sort of takes a gamble, maybe he's not thinking he's entirely ready to take that full responsibility on full time yet. I know he obviously said he wants a Spurs job, but you would, wouldn't you? But if he went off and failed at the first club he tries at, it's quite difficult to come back from that. So I can see why he's still there. And I hope it works out for him. And I hope he's a valued member of the coaching staff that helps us get to back where we need to be.
Yeah, definitely. I think you've all made valid points in the sense that I forget how young he is. I think because he's been around for so long, you think he's older than what he actually is. So, yeah, it is quite interesting to get that point. Before we wrap up, I just want to say a big thank you to everybody that's tuned in. I know Jay needs to rush off. So,
Yeah,
Jay,
got football training.
before you shoot, tell everybody where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter and Twitch at JJ Season. And if anyone's watching has podcasts and looking for guests, please feel free to hit me up. There's nothing I love more than talking about football. I'd rather not talk about Spurs if possible, but if that's the way to do it, then I'm in. But yeah, cheers. Thank you for having me on, Hollie, and I'll see you guys later.
No worries. Thank you. Also, thank you again to Connor for joining me tonight. Connor, where can everybody find you?
Yeah, thanks again. Always a pleasure. Always. I am CC's Recovenia on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok. I make silly videos. I talk about Spurs. I make silly parodies. The less said about them, the better. But yeah, so yeah, you can find me on all of them. Love a chat about Spurs. So love a chat about football in general. But yeah, I think to be honest, I'm at a point where it's so hot. I've lost my words, but one thing to do is keep backing Hollie, keep pushing Hollie's Hotspurs. I'm pointing the wrong way, I think. Anyway, yeah, keep backing it because it's great. And yeah.
No, thank you, Connor. Like I said, I think we're all bloody melting, so I'm trying to wrap this up quick. So thank you, Connor. And Mitch, where can everybody find you as well, my friend?
Yeah, just on Twitter at Mitch_Fretton, and any of you that follow or use LiveScore, I do news articles on their app and site as well. So I'll have a Postecoglou article coming out hopefully rather soon on his tactics and what he's going to be like at Spurs. So I'll get that out on the socials. And thank you again for having me, Hollie. It's always a pleasure. And I also have a Magnum with my name on it because I am roasting hot like the rest of you.
Oh, yeah, no, it's too bloody hot to do these things. I knew there was a reason I shouldn't have done them in the summer, but here we are. We can't rest. But no, thank you to everybody else that has tuned in tonight as well. Make sure you go follow these guys on all their socials as well. Hollie's Hotspurs Live will not be back next Monday as I am going to hopefully not die in Benidorm. But we should be back after that. So thank you again all for watching. Until next time, come on you Spurs.